The truth is, some people don't crumble because you hurt them. They crumble because you showed them what real strength looks like, and it reminded them how weak they are. Now, imagine this for a moment, chosen one. You're standing in the same room as them, maybe even sharing the same air, and in just one glance, they see something in you they've never seen before. Not your face, not your clothes, not your achievements. They see the raw current of your spiritual strength, and it hits them like a wave too big to stand against. It's like trying to stare into the sun without blinking. Too bright, too real, too undeniable. They weren't ready. And here's the kicker. Science says the body reacts to awe and fear in almost the exact same way. Racing heart, short breath, adrenaline rushing. The difference? Fear drains their soul. Awe rewires yours. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to return the energy by pressing the like and subscribe. Help spread this message so more souls can wake up, because it's our responsibility to shine this light far and wide. Thank you for being part of this force. You're not just listening to a message, you are the message. Now back to what happened when they saw you. They thought you were just another face in the crowd, just another person passing by. But the moment your presence hit them, something in their spirit flinched. They didn't see a timid, safe energy they could play with. They saw a force the universe had carved out of storms, scars, and survival. And without saying a single word, without lifting a single hand, you made their insecurities scatter like shadows under a spotlight. You didn't threaten them, you didn't confront them, but they felt it. That quiet, steady power that tells the truth without ever speaking. It shook them because they live in a world where most people fake their worth. They wear masks, they puff up their chests, they collect empty achievements for applause. But you carry something real, the kind of real they can't copy. And when that truth stood in front of them, their false self started cracking. They saw themselves reflected in your strength. And it wasn't a flattering picture. It was like watching their own paper-thin confidence dissolve in water. That's why they avoided your eyes. That's why their words stumbled. That's why their smile didn't reach their eyes. They weren't intimidated by you. They were haunted by the sudden realization of what they're not. The universe didn't send you here to play small so they could feel big. Your presence is meant to unsettle those who cling to illusions, to make them question their own limits. And when they caught that glimpse of your spiritual voltage, it was too much. Like standing in a room where the air suddenly gets heavier, where silence feels louder, where every excuse they've told themselves starts sounding hollow. They weren't ready for it, and they might never be. But here's the thing, chosen one, that reaction, that's proof. Proof that you're operating on a level they can't fake. Proof that all the pain, all the nights you thought would break you, actually built you into this unstoppable force. And the more you grow, the more you'll see this same reaction in others. The stutter, the glare, the sudden change in tone. It's their spirit recognizing something before their mind can explain it. And trust me, once they've seen it, they can't unsee it. It will follow them. It will remind them. And some will never forgive you for it, simply because you woke them up to their own weakness without even trying. And now, let's pull back the curtain and go step by step into exactly what happened when they caught that glimpse of your strength. But, chosen one, this isn't just another story, it's your reflection. As you hear this, you'll feel it in your chest because you've lived it. You've seen that sudden shift in their eyes, the way the air changes when your energy walks in. And trust me, by the time we're done, you'll see their reaction in a whole new light. So, here's your moment. Drop a 77 in the comments if you've ever had someone look at you like they've just seen something they couldn't handle. Let's flood this space with the power they tried to ignore. And chosen one, stay with me until the end, because the deeper we go, the more you'll understand why they couldn't handle you and why they still can't. All right, let's get started. Number 1, you didn't break them, you showed them the mirror they've been running from. Some people don't fear being hurt, they fear being seen. Because when they're seen, the mask falls and there's no place left to hide. Chosen one, when they caught that glimpse of your spiritual strength, it wasn't just a passing moment. It was a collision between the false image they've been selling to the world and the truth your presence refuses to sugarcoat. And let's be real, they've been building that image for years. They've polished it, rehearsed it, and sold it to anyone willing to buy. They've been the confident one, the unshakable one, the clever one, who always stays a step ahead. But inside they've been duct taping cracks and hoping no one notices the leaks. And then you walked in, not with noise, not with theatrics, not with some flashy display, just you, just your energy, your truth, your presence. And without even trying, you stripped away the paint and showed them the rotting wood underneath. You didn't need to dig. You didn't interrogate them. You didn't lay traps. You simply were, and that being carried the kind of raw truth that exposes anything fake by contrast. Now, imagine how that feels to someone who's been hiding for years. It's not just discomfort, it's exposure. It's the kind of moment where the heart skips not out of attraction, but out of fear, and they can't even explain it to themselves. Because how do you admit that another human being, without touching you or speaking a word, just made your soul flinch? That's not an everyday thing. That's a once-in-a-lifetime gut punch. Some of them will lie to themselves about it. Oh, they're nothing special. I just don't like their vibe. They think they're better than everyone. But deep down, they know. The truth is, chosen one, you didn't overpower them. You revealed them. And here's the dangerous part for them. When you're attacked, you can fight back. But when you're revealed, when the curtain is pulled back and someone sees the shaking, unprepared version of you, there's nothing to swing at, no shield to hide behind, just silence and shame. And that shame isn't just about you. It's about every moment they've built their identity on a lie, every conversation they twisted to look smarter, every room they controlled by playing the confident role, every friendship, relationship, or business deal that relied on the mask being believed. You didn't just see past the mask. You shattered the belief that it was unbreakable. And once a mask is cracked, it can't be worn the same way again. You might wonder, but I didn't do anything. Why would they react so strongly? Because, chosen one, you have something they can't fake. You've walked through pain that forced you to either break or build yourself into something unshakable. You've been forged in silence, in struggle, in moments where there was no applause, no witnesses, just the decision to get up one more time. That's why your energy feels different. It's got weight. Not the kind of weight that crushes, but the kind that makes people aware of their own emptiness when they stand next to you. And here's the thing. They are used to being the heavy presence in the room. They are used to being the one who makes others adjust, the one who subtly dominates without saying a word. But when they stood in front of you, that dynamic flipped. Suddenly they were the one shrinking in the shadow. And their ego? It couldn't handle that. It's why some of them left that encounter feeling strangely drained, unsettled, maybe even resentful. They didn't understand it consciously, but deep down, they knew. They had just been reminded of everything they pretend to be, but aren't. And for some, that's unbearable. It's easier to dislike you, to gossip about you, to try to tear you down, than to face the truth you showed them. But here's where this becomes your weapon, chosen one. Every time you walk in your truth, you don't just live. You challenge the entire structure of lies others have built around themselves. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to prove anything. Your existence alone is a mirror they can't look into for long without cracking. And that's why they might avoid you, talk about you, or try to pull you down. It's not because you did something wrong. It's because you made them see themselves without the filter. And you might think, but isn't that cruel? No. Cruelty is letting someone live forever inside an illusion that's killing them slowly. You're the moment that illusion gets challenged. Whether they use that moment to grow or to run is their choice. And yes, many will run. Because growth is painful. And seeing the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be, that pain cuts deeper than most can bear. So, let this be your reminder. Your strength isn't about being louder, flashier, or more in control than others. Your strength is the quiet storm, the steady flame, the solid ground that makes their trembling noticeable. You've already done the work to get here. They haven't. And until they do, they'll keep reacting the same way, avoiding, resenting, envying. But the irony? They'll never forget you. Even if they try to erase the memory, even if they convince themselves you're not worth thinking about, there will be nights when your face, your presence, your unshakable calm will creep back into their mind. Not because they miss you, but because they can't outrun the mirror you held up. So walk with your head high, chosen one. You didn't break them, You broke the illusion they worshipped, and no matter what they do next, that's something they will never be able to undo. Number 2, they tried to pull your strings, but you were never attached to their puppet show. You can't be controlled by someone whose hands never built you. The most dangerous person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who can't be bought, flattered, or scared. When your soul runs on its own power, their wires fall useless at your feet. Chosen one, when they got close to you, they quickly learned a truth they didn't want to face. You have access to a power they cannot touch, twist, or trap. And that realization didn't just unsettle them, it infuriated them. You see, they've spent years, maybe decades, fine-tuning the art of control. They know exactly which strings to pull to make people dance. They can charm the insecure, bribe the greedy, guilt the empathetic, and intimidate the fearful. It's a game they've mastered, and they've been winning it for so long, they assumed it would work on everyone. Then you showed up. Imagine this, chosen one. They're standing there, trying their first move. Maybe it's flattery, maybe it's subtle guilt, maybe it's a dangling reward you didn't ask for. But instead of grabbing the bait, you just don't move. No spark of interest, no flicker of doubt. Just that calm, grounded energy that says, I'm not for sale. In that moment, it's like a fisherman realizing their hook has nothing to catch. Not because the fish swam away, but because the fish was never hungry for their bait in the first place. And you might be thinking, but I wasn't even trying to resist them. I just didn't care about what they offered. Exactly. That's what rattled them. They're used to resistance. Resistance can be worn down over time. They can argue with resistance. They can pressure resistance until it bends. But indifference? That's untouchable. You weren't playing their game, and that's why they couldn't win. You don't have to fight the storm when you're already standing outside its reach. Your power doesn't run on the approval, attention, or fear that fuels their control. You've built yourself on something deeper, less shiny, less performative, but infinitely stronger. And that foundation is a nightmare for manipulators because it means they can't locate your weak spots. They can't dangle the things you don't need. They can't scare you with losses you're not afraid to take. And the insecurities they might try to exploit, you've already faced them, bled through them, and walked out stronger. Imagine them as a locksmith with a ring of keys, each one designed to open a different person's cage. They approach you with confidence. They've opened hundreds before. But when they try each key, nothing turns. Not because you've locked yourself in, but because you were never in a cage to begin with. That's when the panic sets in. You might wonder, why would that make them so angry? Can't they just leave me alone? In a fair world, maybe. But control isn't just a habit for them. It's their identity. Being able to pull people's strings gives them power. And power is the only thing holding their world together. If they can't control you, they can't control the narrative about you. And if they can't control the narrative, they can't protect the image they've built for themselves in the eyes of others. That's the ultimate loss for them. They want to be the one deciding how others see you, turning your light down when it's too bright, painting over your truth when it threatens their lies. But with you, the paint won't stick. The light doesn't dim. Every attempt to twist your image only exposes their own pettiness. It's like trying to throw mud at a fire. You just end up making the fire more obvious. When you don't hand over the pen, they can't rewrite your story. Think about how deeply that unsettles them. They've spent their whole life believing they could tilt the board in their favor, no matter who sat across from them. But here you are, playing a completely different game on a completely different board. And no matter how they try to pull you into their arena, through flattery, guilt, fear, or temptation, you stay rooted, not out of stubbornness, but out of clarity. You know who you are. You know what you will and won't give your energy to. And that level of self-possession is terrifying to someone who only feels safe when others are leaning on them. Imagine a spider who's spun an elaborate web, confident it can catch anything that passes through. Then you come along, and you walk right through the space without touching a single thread. You don't tear the web down, you don't struggle in it. You just move outside its reach entirely. And that, chosen one, is why they can't stand you. You didn't fight their trap. You proved their trap doesn't work. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're untouchable. It's about knowing you don't need what they're offering. And once a manipulator realizes they have nothing to offer you, their influence evaporates. They can't sell you fear because you've lived through worse. They can't sell you validation because you've already validated yourself. They can't sell you belonging because you've learned to belong to yourself first. You might ask, but won't they just give up? Sometimes, yes. But more often, they'll test you again, just to make sure the first time wasn't a fluke. They might disguise the manipulation better, make the bait more tempting, wrap the pressure in sweetness instead of force. But no matter how they dress it up, the core is the same, and you'll spot it instantly. And every time they fail, it chips away at the confidence they've built their entire identity on. That's why you'll notice a shift in their behavior after realizing they can't control you. Some will go silent, retreating to nurse their bruised ego. Others will try to undermine you indirectly, hoping to control the perception of you if they can't control you directly. Either way, the truth is the same. They've met someone outside their reach, and it stings. And here's the part you need to remember, chosen one. Their inability to influence you isn't a threat to you. It's a revelation for them. A revelation that there are forces in this world, forces like you, that can't be owned, bent, or reduced. And whether they hate you for it or secretly admire it, they'll never forget it. So keep walking in that power. Don't shrink to make them comfortable. Don't explain yourself to ease their frustration. Because the moment you start bending to appease them, you step into their arena. And that's the only place they can beat you. Stay where you are. Stand in the space they can't reach. And let them wrestle with the truth that not everyone will dance to their strings. Real power isn't about controlling others. It's about being unshakable when they try. Number 3. You didn't fight their demons. You dragged them out into the sun. Some people aren't afraid of you. They're afraid of what they become when you're around. Chosen one, when they stood in your presence, something in them started unraveling, and it wasn't because you said a word. You didn't accuse them. You didn't corner them. You simply were. And that was enough to shake the lock off the cellar door they've kept hidden for years. Out spilled the things they thought they'd buried for good. Jealousy, bitterness, insecurity, and malice they've been hiding under fake kindness, polished smiles, and carefully crafted humility. Imagine this. A room that's been shut tight for decades. Dust in the air, mold in the corners, the smell of rot that no one notices because no one goes inside. Then one day, someone throws open the windows and sunlight pours in, the dust dances, the mold is revealed, the air is suddenly unbearable. That's what your energy does. It opens windows they have nailed shut, and it doesn't ask for permission. You might wonder, but I wasn't even trying to expose them. Why would they take it personally? Because clean energy doesn't blend with filth. It forces it to the surface. Your light doesn't politely stop at the edges of someone's lies. It spills into their shadows and makes them visible. And the things hiding there, they don't like it. They squirm. They lash out. They do anything to protect the identity they've built. They can keep their demons quiet around most people, but your presence is different. It's not the kind of light that glows softly in the background. It's the kind that reaches into corners. And once something that's been living in darkness meets that kind of light, it reacts violently. Not because the light harmed it, but because it can't survive being seen. That's why their attitude toward you may have turned cold, hostile, or overly critical without reason. It's not hatred in the purest sense. It's discomfort. Being around you forces them to face what they've been avoiding. And for someone who's spent years hiding their true self, that's a slow, unbearable burn. Remember this, chosen one. You didn't create their demons. You just made them impossible to ignore. And once someone sees what's been living inside them, they can never unsee it. Number 4. You weren't shattered by the storm. You became the storm. They thought your scars meant you were broken. They didn't realize your scars are proof you're unbreakable. Chosen one, when they looked at you, they expected to see someone barely standing. They thought your eyes would carry the dim, hollow look of someone life had chewed up and spit out. They expected your past pain to hang on you like a weight you'd never shake. But instead, they saw steel. They saw clarity. They saw a presence so solid it made their own strength feel like paper. And that rattled them to their core. See, people who've never faced deep pain believe it always weakens you. They think loss drains you forever. They think betrayal leaves you permanently suspicious. They think hardship bends your spirit so badly you can never stand tall again. Why? Because that's what it would do to them. Even a small wound leaves them limping. They've never been forced through the kind of fires that either destroy you or transform you, but you have. Imagine a sword in the forge, raw metal hammered, heated, folded again and again until it becomes something deadly precise. That's what your life has done to you. Every loss was the heat. Every betrayal was the hammer. Every hardship was the chisel cutting away weakness. Yes, it hurt. But in the end, all that was left was the purest, sharpest version of you. You're not just someone who made it through. You're someone who became through it, and that terrifies them. Because deep down, they know, if life ever hit them with the same force it hit you, they might never get back up. But you didn't just get up. You came back stronger, smarter, and immune to the same tricks that once worked on you. Your scars? They're not shame. They're proof. Proof you've been to hell and didn't stay there. Proof you've lost people and still found yourself. Proof you've been betrayed and didn't turn into the very thing you despise. And that's a kind of proof no amount of money, status, or charm can fake. So when they caught that glimpse of you, they weren't just seeing strength, they were seeing living evidence that the worst life can throw isn't the end. And for them, that truth is terrifying, because it means their excuses for staying broken are nothing but smoke. Number 5. Their blades went dull the moment they touched you. When you can't be controlled, you become a threat by default. Chosen one, they've spent years sharpening the same weapons: gossip, betrayal, intimidation, and slander. These tools have always worked for them. They've used them to break reputations, crush confidence, and bend even the strongest people into submission. They counted on those weapons like a hunter counts on their favorite rifle. But when they aimed them at you, nothing happened. You didn't duck. You didn't scramble to defend your name. You didn't run to rally allies. You just stood there, calm, unshaken, and unbothered. And that's when they realized they were facing someone they couldn't reach. Imagine a boxer stepping into the ring, throwing their best punches, and watching them land with zero effect. Not because you're too far away, but because you're armored in a way they don't understand. They can hit, but they can't hurt. And for someone whose identity is built on being able to wound, that's maddening. You noticed every dig, every whisper, every shift in the air when they tried to isolate you. But you didn't play their game. You didn't hand them the emotional reaction they needed to feel powerful. You let their blows swing in empty space. Why? Because your self-worth isn't built on their approval. Their betrayal can't shatter you because your trust was never rooted in them. Their gossip doesn't stick because your identity isn't written by the crowd. And every time they fail to land a hit, it's another crack in their sense of dominance. For people like them, control is oxygen. If they can't dictate what others think, feel, or do, they start suffocating. And you've cut off their supply. You've shown them they're irrelevant to your peace. Imagine them holding a sword that's won every battle until now. They swing and it bounces harmlessly off. They sharpen it, they try new angles, they even bring in others to help. Still nothing. And here's the part that kills them. There is no upgrade, no secret weapon, no back door that will work. Because your protection doesn't come from fear, strategy, or defense, it comes from alignment. And alignment can't be hacked. That's why they can't stand you, chosen one. You're not just out of reach. You've made them realize their power was never as absolute as they thought. Number 6. They weren't just facing you, they were facing the army behind you. Some people stand alone, others stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's a height enemies can't reach. Chosen one, they couldn't explain it, but they felt it, the heavy, unshakable force that walks into every room with you. It wasn't just you they were dealing with. It was the weight of every battle your bloodline has already won. You carry echoes of those who came before, people who endured storms you'll never have to weather because they already took the hits for you. That kind of backing doesn't shout. It just stands there, immovable. Imagine this: a tree with roots so deep, they intertwine with generations of earth. The wind can howl, the seasons can change, but the trunk doesn't bow. That's you. Every step you take is grounded in the strength of those who fought before you, clearing the path brick by brick so you could stand where you stand now. They've spent their lives dealing with people who rely only on themselves, people they can push, pull, or break with the right amount of pressure. But with you, they hit a wall a wall they couldn't climb, couldn't chip away, and couldn't understand. It rattled them, because it wasn't arrogance holding you steady. It was heritage. Even in your lowest moments, you never fully sink. Why? Because your foundation runs too deep. That stability drives them mad. They're used to finding the crack in someone's armor, the soft spot to exploit. But your shield wasn't forged yesterday. It was tempered long before you arrived. They can't mimic it. They can't steal it. They can't even name it without admitting it exists. But they feel it. In the way you hold your ground without needing to posture. In the way your silence weighs heavier than their noise. In the way no attack ever quite lands the way they hoped. What they felt wasn't just personal strength. It was history standing behind you like an invisible army. Sacrifice, survival, and relentless resilience are at your back. And whether they believe in such things or not, they know one truth deep down. You're not someone they can take down. Because you were never standing here alone. Number 7. They couldn't chain you because you weren't holding the leash. The moment you stop fearing what you can lose, no one can control you. Chosen one, nothing unsettles them more than the way you move, calm, steady, and without that invisible weight most people carry on their backs. They're used to people flinching at the thought of losing something. Position, approval, comfort, reputation. For them, fear of loss is the easiest leash to slip over someone's neck, and they've spent their whole lives tugging that leash to get people to obey. But when they tried it on you, there was nothing to grab, no chain to pull, no hook to dig in. You walk like someone who knows exactly where your strength comes from, and it's not from them, their approval, or anything they can withhold. Imagine a jailer walking up to a door, confident they've got the key, only to find you were never locked in the cell. That's what it's like for them? They're used to keeping people in line by threatening to take away something vital, but they can't dangle what you're not desperate for. They can't threaten to cut off what you're willing to release. And they can't scare you into staying in a room you've already decided you can walk out of. They've built their identity on being gatekeepers, controlling who gets in, who gets out, and what happens in between. But with you, there is no gate. Your worth, your peace, and your future don't live inside their fortress. You're untethered, and that terrifies them. You've learned something they never have. Anything that can be taken from you was never truly yours to begin with. So, you don't cling, you trust your footing, you let go when you need to. And that makes you dangerous in their world, because without fear, their entire playbook is useless. That's why seeing you move without tension shakes them so badly. It forces them to face the truth that if fear is the only leash they've got, they can't lead you anywhere. And when their power relies entirely on control, the moment you're beyond that control, their power doesn't just weaken, it disappears. Number 8. Your stillness made their storm look small. Silence isn't weakness. It's the loudest way to say, you have no power here. Chosen one, they threw everything they had at you. Accusations, twisted stories, subtle digs, and drama designed to pull you off balance. They were sure you'd crack, that you'd get sucked into their whirlwind and start swinging back. But you didn't. You stayed grounded, steady, unshaken. And that was the one thing they never prepared for. People like them live off reaction. Chaos is their oxygen. If they can get you to stumble, to raise your voice, to fight for an image in their eyes, they win. But when they ran into your stillness, it was like throwing punches into the air. Nothing landed. That kind of calm isn't passive. It's a weapon. It's the discipline of someone who knows they're not at the mercy of anyone else's narrative. Imagine a hurricane trying to tear down a mountain. The wind screams, the rain beats against the rock, but the mountain doesn't move. That was you. While they tried to drag you into their emotional storm, you stayed anchored in a place they couldn't reach. And that stability spoke louder than anything they could yell. It declared without a word that they never had control over your mind. Your silence wasn't surrender. It was mastery. You knew that engaging their chaos would only feed it, so you denied them the one thing they crave most. An audience. And without someone to spar with, their fury started to look desperate. Their accusations began to sound hollow. Standing next to your composure made their behavior look even louder, even messier, even more unstable. It's one thing to scream in a crowd of screams. It's another to scream while someone watches you with unshaken eyes. That contrast was unbearable for them, because it exposed the truth. Their power only exists when others step into their arena. When they realized they couldn't pull you in, they realized something far worse. They'd lost their grip on you entirely. And for someone whose worth is measured by control over others, that loss wasn't just frustrating, it was devastating. Number 9, they couldn't breathe in the air you live in. Some people don't drown because the water is too deep. They drown because they were never built to swim where you do. Chosen one, they saw it right away. You're not powerful because of where you stand or who's around you. Your strength doesn't depend on location, position, or approval. You carry it with you like an atmosphere, and anywhere you go, the air changes. That's what shook them. They realize your stability isn't borrowed, it's built in. You don't pull your power from the room, you bring it to the room. Meanwhile, their entire survival strategy depends on finding the right room. They thrive only in environments they can dominate, circles they can manipulate, places that inflate their ego. Strip away their crowd, their influence, or their safety net, and they wither. Imagine a fish pulled out of stagnant water and dropped into a clean, rushing stream. The water is purer, fresher, but they can't breathe in it. That's them in your world. Your energy is too clean for deception, too steady for manipulation, too resilient for fear to root itself. They'd have to shed the very parts of themselves they've depended on to survive. And for them, that's unthinkable. You don't just survive hard conditions, you get sharper in them. The fire doesn't consume you, it tempers you. The storms don't drown you, they strengthen your anchor. And that's why, even if they tried to walk where you walk, they'd collapse long before you ever slowed down. They left with a quiet awareness. Staying close to you would require transformation they're not ready for. And that's the real sting. They know your world isn't closed to them. They could grow into it, but growth demands letting the old self die. And for them, that death feels far scarier than staying weak. Number 10. You didn't just outshine them, you made their crown look plastic. A stage can make someone look powerful, but take the stage away, and the truth shows. Chosen one, they've spent their whole life as the one people turn to, the voice that sets the tone, the presence that fills a room, the name that opens doors. In their world, they've been untouchable. They know how to stir a crowd, twist a narrative, and keep everyone orbiting around their approval. But when they met you, something in their foundation shifted. You didn't bow to their aura. You didn't flinch at their reputation, their titles, their subtle flexes, their quiet attempts at dominance. None of it landed, and that alone was enough to make their carefully built image start to crack. You never had to challenge them outright. Your presence became a silent mirror, showing them exactly what they didn't want to see. Their power is conditional. It only works when the environment props it up, when they're in familiar territory, surrounded by people who will feed their ego or bend to their influence. Remove the stage, remove the audience, and their shine fades fast. Yours? Yours doesn't shift with the lighting. It doesn't need a microphone, a crowd, or applause. It's constant, untouchable, and rooted in something they can't buy, fake, or cut off. That's why it's so dangerous to them, because it reveals the difference between man-made authority and power that simply is. Imagine a flashlight in a dark room. It looks bright until the sun rises. Standing next to you, their light didn't just dim, it disappeared. What tore them apart wasn't that you were stronger, it was that you weren't even competing. You didn't measure yourself against them, didn't fight for space, didn't need to prove a point. And that indifference was worse than a defeat, because it told them they were never even in the same league. From that moment, they knew the truth they can't stand. No matter how loud they play their part, next to you, it will always feel small. And that's a reality their ego may never recover from. Number 11, they couldn't cross the bridge because it was never built for them. Access denied isn't rejection, it's protection. Chosen one, they came toward you with a plan. Maybe they thought they could charm their way in, map your weaknesses, or plant quiet seeds of doubt. They've done it before, slipping into people's lives just far enough to gain leverage. But the moment they got close enough to sense your depth, they hit something they didn't expect. A wall they can't climb, a gate they can't open, a bridge that simply isn't there for them. You carry a center that seals itself off the second intentions go crooked. It's not a guard born from fear. It's an anchor that refuses entry to what isn't aligned. And for someone used to walking straight into the core of others, that sealed door is a shock to the system. Imagine them standing at the edge of a deep, clear lake. They can see the water. They can hear it. They can even touch the surface. But no matter how they try, they'll never reach the depths, because those depths don't open for them. That's how your spirit works. It doesn't grant entry to hands that come with hidden motives. You could be in the same room, breathing the same air, even laughing at the same moment. But to them, it feels like you're galaxies away. And that distance isn't coldness, it's clarity. You don't need to push them back. Your discernment draws the line automatically, like a boundary written into your very presence. This frustrates them more than any direct rejection could. People like them survive on emotional hooks and spiritual infiltration. If they can't get into the deep places of someone's heart, their influence evaporates. And with you, every attempt just slips off like water on stone. To you, it's simple. You live with integrity, you stay aligned with your purpose, and the universe shields what's meant to stay untouched. But to them, it's a death blow to their entire strategy. They're not used to doors that don't open when they knock. And the worst part? They can't force them open without tearing themselves apart first. That's why they'll always remember you, not for what they got from you, but for the truth they couldn't reach. Number 12. They thought you were finished, but you're only in the opening act of their downfall. The scariest thing for your enemies isn't who you are now, it's who they know you're becoming. Chosen one, they thought they were looking at your final form, the end of your growth, the peak of your strength. But what they actually saw was just a trailer for the full story, a preview, a glimpse of you still sharpening, still gathering wisdom, still stepping deeper into the power you were meant to carry. And that's what rattles them to their core, because if this version of you already dismantles their control and shakes their comfort, what will happen when you step into your complete form? That thought keeps them restless, because it means their time is running out. People like them depend on catching others before they fully awaken. They prey on the unsure, the unpolished, the ones still looking for validation, because that's when molding someone is easy. But they miscalculated with you. You've survived too much to go backward. Every storm you've endured has been adding weight to your presence, not taking from it. They see the signs, they can feel the acceleration in you. Your words carry more conviction, your silence has more authority. Your movements are deliberate, precise. You're becoming someone whose growth won't plateau, it will multiply. And that's the real danger for them. Because spiritual power doesn't just grow, it changes everything it touches. It shifts the atmosphere, it exposes motives, it strips disguises, and every step forward makes it harder for them to hide in the same space as you without being revealed. They're not just afraid of your strength, they're afraid of their exposure. Right now, you're only operating at a fraction of your potential, and it's already too much for them. They know once you step fully into your next chapter, they won't be able to exist in your story without being destroyed by it. So they watch, they pretend, they hope they've misread the signs, but deep down, they know. Your rise is their reckoning. This isn't the end of your story. This is the moment the plot turns, and the ending will not be written in their favor. And so, chosen one, we've reached the point where it's clear. Every reaction they've had to you was never about weakness in you, but the truth you've forced them to face in themselves. You've walked through storms, shattered their illusions, and stood untouchable where they thought you'd fall. This is only the beginning of your rise, and they know it. If this message lit something in your spirit, press the like button, subscribe, drop the number 77 in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The light you carry is meant to spread, so let's spread it.